when the kids opened their mouths, that's when I finally cried in that moment. I surrendered myself to what my destiny was. And I looked at their faces and I realized all along, my father said, you are going to serve and unite people through music. I never accepted that. I'm like, no, that's not my path. And in that moment, I realized that my life was not about me, but it was about serving others.
Welcome to the Atlanta Music Project's podcast, The Next Movement, and it's my esteemed pleasure to welcome our guest today, Josephine Lee. Josephine Lee joined the Chicago Children's Choir in 1999, and today she is the president and artistic director. She's been recognized nationally and internationally for her work as a conductor, a pianist, and a composer. Among many awards she's received, we have the Kennedy Center's National Committee for the Performing Arts Award for Arts Advocacy in 2018. And she was also featured in The Transformative Power of Music, a segment on Oprah Winfrey's network acclaimed show, Super Soul Sunday. Here at the Atlanta Music Project, we are huge fans of the Chicago Children's Choir, and so we're honored that Josephine could take time out of her busy schedule to join us today. Josephine, welcome to the Next Movement podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. What a privilege.
How are you doing? How is the COVID-19 pandemic impacting you and your life as an artist? Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing much better. Thank you. I mean, when this all started, holy cow, who would have thought that we would be experiencing this global shutdown? But no, I'm staying positive, encouraged. Our kids are engaged online, digital platform. Obviously, it's not ideal. I'm sure it's not ideal for you, but you know, we have to power through this and try to lead when there seems to be a lot of despair.
Absolutely. And I know that you guys are pivoting very, very well because I get all your email blasts and I've seen some of the work you guys are doing. Those virtual choirs are quite spectacular.
Thanks. I mean, you know, it's an opportunity for us to keep making music. And even though we are not in the same room together, it allows the young people to continue singing, but B, hone their craft, right? In ways that they never had the time or the space. So it has actually been very additive. And in addition to the virtual initiatives, we started a Voices of Today fireside chat. So I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to speak with you because I adore you and loved our conversation a few weeks ago. I feel like we're kindred spirits. And we've been also creating these facilitated dialogues with our singers and breakout groups after the Voices of Today. You know, we invite global leaders and artists who have been part of our network to share their life story and their challenges. And so it's been great. I mean, you know, look we could sit here and complain about what this pandemic is doing, or we can take action and embrace the new normal and create opportunities. I mean, it's like uncharted territory, right? I mean, yeah. And for musicians, yes, it is challenging, but I think it's also an opportunity for us.
Yeah, I love the optimism, and I feel like the Chicago Children's Choir is already a leader in the field, and so kudos to you guys for continuing to push the boundaries. Let's go back a little bit because the Atlanta Music Project is only 10 years old, but the Chicago Children's Choir was founded many years ago, 1956, by the late Reverend Christopher Moore. It was founded as a direct result of the civil rights movement. Can you tell us a little bit about what was happening in Chicago at the time and how, bringing together children to sing became a response to the injustices, particularly the racial injustices taking place at that time?
Right. The Chicago Children's Choir was founded as a social action first, using music to bring together diverse children. So Reverend Christopher Moore, who's a Unitarian minister, Harvard grad, came to Chicago, and he was very distraught with what was going on during the civil rights movement, and he wanted to take action. He wanted to make a difference, create a better world. So he brought in children, at that time black and white, together to sing together to see if they could, live harmoniously. And what started out as one choir in Hyde Park, we now have over 5,200 children in Chicago, over 5,000.
Amazing.
And, it's this global movement, right? Inspiring and changing lives through the power of music to create global citizens. So it just shows you, it just takes one person to make a difference.
I remember the early days of the Atlanta Music Project. One employee, me, a board of directors of 3, and we had one program site at a City of Atlanta recreation center, just down the street from here. We had about 20 elementary school students who would come and take lessons with us 5 days a week with our 8 professional teaching artists. It was intensive, but very small, but very authentic too. Do you have a sense, even though you weren't there, do you have a sense of what those first early days were for the Chicago Children's Choir? I can't imagine it was perfect and smooth right off the bat.
For sure. Well, the stories that I've heard, it was life-changing for a lot of them. And in fact, it inspired other children's choruses. I'm sure you're familiar with Henry Leck's Indianapolis Children's Chorus. He actually heard them perform at an ACDA conference, and he was completely blown away. And they were in their church robes, and he's like, "My gosh, this is what Indiana needs, Indianapolis." And so that was the impetus to create the Indianapolis Children's Choir. There's something so powerful. And I said during the height of the civil rights movement, at that time, blacks and whites, now we represent the demographic of the city. And so it is particularly powerful when you bring voices, not only from one race, from a multitude of races. There's a beautiful color, the sonorous air that is very transcendent. And as you know, music has the ability to heal us, to bring us joy, to help us through sorrow. And I think those profound moments during that era is what still carries us today.
And you have the Chicago Children's Choir not only influenced, choirs in Indianapolis, but Boston.
Yes.
And many other cities. The first time I heard about the Chicago Children's Choir was from Hubie Jones in Boston. Yeah, he was the one that said, I saw what they're doing in Chicago, and we had to do it in Boston. And so we're good friends with Anthony Truscott King. And yeah, so I mean, you guys are a pioneer, really.
Yeah, Hubie, I love Hubie. And I remember meeting Hubie at the University of Chicago City Year. He was with City Year at that time, and he came up to me. He's like, "Josephine, we need this." So he invited us to Boston every January for their Martin Luther King celebration. And I love him. I should reach out to him.
Yes, shout out to Hubie Jones. When I came down to Atlanta, he introduced me to a few of his colleagues in Atlanta. Like, he was willing to help in any way, so that was really cool.
Incredible.
You are Chicago through and through. Born and raised, Lincoln Park, right? Is Lincoln Park the neighborhood where you?
Yeah, back before it became gentrified, but yes.
Right. You're the only child of immigrants to the United States from Korea. Now, I, too, am a child of immigrants. My dad is from Haiti. My mom is from Cameroon. But I was born in Ottawa, Canada. And my parents were very no-nonsense and very focused on education and music lessons. They let me play sports. They made me play music. They didn't like me sitting around idle. What was it like in your household growing up?
Well, my father was a minister, and my mother was a teacher. So I feel like I've lived, and my parents sadly both passed away in the early 2000s. It was militant, right? Not militant. I'm the nicest way possible. They didn't know any better. They wanted to give me opportunities, had me play piano and violin at age 3 and sing in choirs, and I wanted to quit immediately after, and they said, absolutely not, you're going to stick with this till you graduate high school. And so with the grudge, I did, and then I ended up starting to conduct at 15. I started my own children's chorus, and so there was a reason, right? They identified some sort of talent and gift, and I actually wanted to be a lawyer, to be quite honest. And it all kind of, it was all serendipitous, I guess.
The world needs more Josephine Lees and less lawyers, so I'm really happy that you took the path you did. Yeah, my parents were the same. They didn't let me quit. That was the thing. They knew that I enjoyed playing, but they knew what I didn't like was the practicing, the rigor, the discipline. But there was a moment in time, I think I was in 9th grade, when I heard the high school that I was going to go to, their band came to my middle school to perform, to recruit. And they were playing I remember they were playing some Whitney Houston, and I had never heard anything like it. And I realized that all the ability that I had could turn into something really spectacular. It just had taken me that many years, up to 9th grade, to realize, hey, the practice and the time and the sacrifice is worth it. Was there a moment for you where you realized something similar?
Yes. I excelled in, the fine arts. So I was in orchestra every single day, and through that medium, I was able to play piano concertos with the symphony, which was very fortunate to have that. I mean, I don't know how many schools, I don't know if in Atlanta.
Oh, this was at a public school.
See, same. So a public high school in the suburbs, and they really valued the art. So when I had the opportunity not only to play in the musicals, but to play a piano concerto and chamber music, I realized this is a language that I actually love and adore, and I can unite with people from diverse backgrounds, and how cool is it? And I get to travel. So yes, that was really the reason why I stuck with it, and then subsequent to that, went to university and found this incredible professor. Of course, I'm sure you went to Juilliard, right?
I wish. I went to the Yale School of Music.
Okay.
That's where the Juilliard and Curtis students go after they graduate.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's the joke.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, your pedigree is fabulous. But I wanted to go to New York, and obviously there was a reason why I stayed here. My parents, as you know, passed away several years after that. But I met a professor I was between DePaul and Northwestern, because they wanted me to stay local. And I met this incredible mentor, Dmitri Paperno, who was studied at the Moscow Conservatory of Music, won the Chopin competition, and he only accepted a handful of students. And through Dmitri, Mr. Paperno, I had to relearn a lot of music and musicianship and pianism and all of the nuances that I never fully absorbed as a child. So for example, 17, going to, university, and here I'm thinking, I'm going to play Chopin, Schumann, Tchaikovsky or whatever. And he's like, no, we're going to start with Mozart.
Right.
Okay. A Mozart sonata. Imagine. Okay. I felt like I was being downgraded.
Right.
But my goodness, did I learn so much about pedaling, about tone, about harmony. And that was the beginning of a new life for me. And I felt very enlightened after that. He made me the musician I am today.
Wow. Yeah, Mozart does that. His music is so naked, and it exposes all of your strengths, but it exposes all of your weaknesses too. And if you can play Mozart, you can play anything. So my next question, it's not uncommon for the children of strict immigrant parents to end up doing well when it comes to education and financial stability. You went to college at 17. You benefited from that sort of, rigor, militant upbringing. And it's a formula that can be hard on the child. I mean, I went through it. It's not easy, but the results have been seen over and over again, whether it's, African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, whatever. The tricky part, though, is when that successful child, i.e. you, have their own kids. You have two children. How strict are you with them? And I also am curious to know, how has your upbringing and your own parenting informed how you approach working with your singers at the Chicago Children's Choir?
It's a great question. At the moment, because of this whole online learning, I feel like the inmates are running the prison in my home. It's just a challenging situation, but just in terms of my philosophy and approach, yes, I am very strict. They both play piano, but it is, I have consciously made a choice to not pressure them, to pursue it at the level that I was encouraged to. Only because I want them to enjoy their childhood. So, I mean, I can just share, candidly, my father was 57 when I was born. So imagine, when I was in my 20s, he was pretty old, right? And my mother was also on the older side, and I'm an only child. And so, I had to, they didn't make that much. My father retired when I was 13. So there was a bit of having to support your family. I taught 20 piano students. I had my own chorus, had to play at church, conduct a church choir, just to pay my parents' mortgage. I mean, that was my upbringing. And, when I got the job at the Chicago Children's Choir, that was straight after Northwestern grad school. My mom was diagnosed with cancer, and I needed a job, right? Just insurance, et cetera. So I heard about this extraordinary organization with this great social mission, and that's how I entered the Chicago Children's Choir world. And I thought I was going to be there, honestly, for a year or two. And when I dove in and went into the in-schools and the after-school program, I mean, the children, I fell in love with the children.
You have a pretty good story about your first teaching with the Chicago Children's Choir. You walked into a classroom, and the students told you look like Pocahontas.
Yes.
And then
So, I always had an identity crisis. I don't know about you, but being, Korean American, but I was born in Chicago, so I feel like I'm American, right? If I go to Korea, they think I'm American, because I haven't. So I was struggling with my identity. I have been struggling. And then now with COVID and all that, it's a whole other conversation. But I went into the south side of Chicago and introduced myself to a group of students. And I said, "Good morning, my name is Josephine Lee. I'm here to teach you how to sing." And they're like, "Miss Lee, you look like Pocahontas." And I said, "Well, praise. That is the best compliment someone's ever given me. Thank you." So I felt like I don't know. I felt like I found my home.
And then what else did they say to you? They said that they thought you were fat.
Oh yeah, "Miss Lee, you so fat. You so fat." I'm like, "Oh my God, I need to go on a diet." Seriously, I'm like, someone's telling me I need to lose some weight. They're like, "No, PHAT."
And then what was the first song you conducted them in?
Revelation 19.
And they killed it?
Oh my goodness. Kids can suss you out. So I'm like, "I'm going to teach you this gospel song. Hallelujah." They're like, "Hallelujah." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? Where have you been?" They were just absolutely brilliant.
And then you a few years later, so this was 1999, you stayed on for a few years, and it's my impression is that you were not yet committed for life yet to the organization, but you told me about a special interaction, maybe the one that made you commit to the organization.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
2002, New York City?
That's right. So I started in 98, and in summer of 98, I was appointed artistic director in 99.
Wow.
And then, 23. I'm going to give away my age, but that's okay. I'm owning it. I love the 40s. Uh, so then, and here we are, this organization that has a great social mission, serving children from all across the city, but we weren't being recognized, right? For the work, for the artistry, for the mission. And I don't know if it's America in general, maybe you're facing this too, the lack of respect for young people. And when we travel around the world, the response is incredible. Everyone is just bawling and they just love seeing young people perform at such a high level. And then when you see a diverse group of young people achieving excellence, I mean, there's something that's transformative. So we were all striving, right, to be recognized, even though we had this, at that time, 40 plus years behind us. It didn't matter. We still had to keep proving you're just as good as your last concert. Okay?
That's true. That's true.
So we were finally invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. You know the saying, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. Yep.
Correct. So we were invited to perform at the Young People's Concert with the Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestra. Augusta Reed Thomas had written a piece for us, so we were going to premiere it there. So we had a doubleheader. It was spectacular. Well, of course, in true Chicago Children's Choir fashion, we have to wedge yet another concert in. So we had a concert at the Riverside Chapel in Harlem. That one performance completely transformed, changed my entire life.
Do tell.
So we had programmed, world music. We opened with Shosholoza, which is an anti-apartheid song. And we moved into that.
A student played it for his recital in February.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Then we followed that with the little Ave Maria, the B-Bowl. And then I had them stage the Descant Choir behind me down the aisle, and the kids were up on stage, and then the Chichester Psalms and etc. The rehearsal was horrible. And kids were complaining, they were tired, things were out of tune, the staging wasn't right, you can imagine. And in my mind at that moment, I said, I'm done. My parents just passed away in 2001. I am now free to live my life for me, right? And what have I always wanted to do? I always wanted to live in Europe and travel the world and, work in the opera houses, etc. And so I thought, this is it. This is my moment. I've done everything I can for this place. After this concert, I'm out. After this tour, I'm leaving. I'm going to sell my condo and just take off. Well, the Ave Maria, that was horribly out of tune, and the children that were tired and fatigued from the day and the trip, it was the most transcendent moment of my life. I performed at both my parents' funeral, mom and dad. Didn't shed a tear because I had to be strong, being an only child. When the kids opened their mouths, that's when I finally cried in that moment. I surrendered myself to what my destiny was. And I looked at their faces and I realized all along, my father said, you are going to serve and unite people through music. I never accepted that. I'm like, no, that's not my path. And in that moment, I realized that my life was not about me, but it was about serving others.
Ooh. And was it because all of a sudden they sounded so terrific, or was it something else about that moment, a convergence of experiences? I know you mentioned, and we can talk briefly about 2001, right? That was a very challenging year for you. You have one parent passing away before 9/11, and then another parent passing away after 9/11. Can you talk about that period in your life and how it affected your work as an artist?
Yeah. So, having a parent, suffer with cancer, she had cancer, she was diagnosed with cancer, and consciously choosing colon cancer, not to, she opted out of treatment. And I don't know if that was driven by our financial, lack of financial resources. So to see her deteriorate from 97, 98 on to like 2001 was pretty painful to watch. And then, and my father, who was older, he neglected his health by trying to take care of my mother. In the meantime, I'm working around the clock, serving CCC, trying to pay their mortgage and their bills. So it was, I feel like I've lived I said this at the top, like, I feel like it was a dream. It doesn't even feel like reality, but it is my history. But yes, it did affect me. And I was probably very angry. I was probably very bitter about my destiny. And but it was the children that saved my life. It was the young people, because I saw hope. And then once I embraced my reality, which was 2002, and realizing, like, what are we doing this for? What are we training young people in the arts for, right? And I just share this with you. We have our Bernstein's Mass, the Great Performances PBS special that's airing tonight, and we filmed that last year. And Bernstein, because I'm going to answer some questions tonight, and I've been reflecting upon the questions, and this mass that was written, commissioned by Jackie Onassis for the opening of the Kennedy Center. That piece was very heated and at that time controversial, and because of the eclectic nature of it, right? It had rock and roll, it had blues, it had jazz, and then you had this like traditional choral, it's setting of a mass, and questioning and morality and all of that, and I'm sure Bernstein himself was grappling with what was going on at that time. But I realized after further reflection that the mass is actually the story of my life. Okay. And Bernstein was a social activist, right? As an artist citizen. So, we all know him as this composer, but he was a master educator.
Yeah, his education videos with the New York Philharmonic are masterful. They're amazing.
And I grew up watching that. And so when we look at what are we doing this for? Activism through the arts. We're teaching our children, and at least at the CCC, we say we're inspiring and changing lives through music to create global citizens. It's not about them becoming musicians, okay? I mean, everyone is an artist in my eyes, right?
That's funny. Our last podcast guest said the exact same thing yesterday. Fabian Williams is an artist here, and he said everybody is an artist. We forget that. I'm sorry. Continue.
No. And what is our duty as artists? We are unifiers. We are people that can cross boundaries. Break down barriers of race, religion, class, and see our shared humanity. And that's what we need more of today.
Well, I'll tell you, when I took this path of performance, wanting to be first chair of the biggest orchestras in the world, I mean, I still do. I would still take it if, that came about. But when I sort of transitioned to being an artist that was more of using art to change other people's lives, particularly young people that look like me, I think my playing just improved. I think that it made me a better artist because, like you said earlier, it became about the music and what it can do for the community rather than how well I can play. And that takes a lot of pressure off of an artist, and I think it allows you to be the best artist you can be.
Yes. And I'm sure that's what Chris Moore thought when he started the choir, and I hope we are fulfilling that legacy. And it's such an incredible, and I'm just expanding it, right, globally, as are you. And it is our duty to enlighten and open and create this environment, this safe haven where everyone can express and be themselves.
Yes, if artists don't use art to be meaningful to people, no one else can do it better than artists can. And so in that vein, it's important that music be a vehicle to empower youth, to make them better people and to be the best versions of themselves. But I find that there's always a balance in doing our kind of work. Social change versus musical excellence. The Chicago Children's Choir has several elite choirs, but in addition, you serve thousands of students through partnerships with public schools and other community groups. 80% of your students come from families with low to moderate income. And you and I both know doing this work that a child requires basic needs: food, shelter, clothing. They also need good schools, mentors, extracurriculars. But here we are, and we want them to be excellent musicians. How do you teach musical excellence to a child who may also struggle to have their basic needs met?
You know, well, from my experience, I feel like the arts are also a part of your basic need, you know, and so when you're,
Preach.
yeah, when you're fueled spiritually, it helps on all level. But yes, we are using our bodies, you know, our the voice, the human voice, and we don't have that barrier of the instrument, so we don't have, you know, and I know how much work it takes and practice and, you know, rigor. But with the human voice, you have so much range, you know, and you have so much opportunity to just, you know, and even through this COVID, we started a experimental choir initiative. We're just like, let's just embrace the chaos of Zoom. You know, it's not syncing, so who cares? Okay. And we've incorporated, you know, just allowing kids to just be themselves. And so I guess I'm not answering the question, but I understand what you're trying to say. The excellence is something that we're striving for. It is not the ultimate goal, right?
Okay.
Of course, it'd be great. That's why we have all these VOC. All the kids aspire to, but they have more intensive rehearsals throughout the week, and
Right.
they have to be proficient in theory. But we're very conscious of the bigger picture. So we, it's not like if you can't sight read, you can't get in. It has nothing to do with that. For us, it's about if you have a passion for music, if you have a passion to learn, for learning in the arts, come, you're welcome in our house.
Yes. We tell our parents and students, if you have to show up,
Yes.
just commit to the schedule and we'll work with you, but if we can have them in place, it makes a big difference. In Atlanta, we're in the middle of the hip hop and R&B mecca, and the Atlanta Music Project has been fortunate to have the chance to perform with a few awesome Atlanta-based artists, T.I., Monica, Lecrae, and I know how important these opportunities are for our community because of the musical excellence. They're celebrations of musical excellence, but they're also celebrations of African American culture. And 95% of our students are African American. I wanted to ask you about collaborating as well, because the Chicago Children's Choir has done so many outstanding collaborations. You guys got to do a 2016 collaboration with Chance the Rapper on his album Coloring Book. It's spectacular. How did this come about?
Oh, he's a doll. Just a beacon of light. So I met him through one of my board member, Joe Shanahan. His daughter knew him through high school friends.
Wow.
And Joe owns a club here in Chicago called the Metro and Smart Bar. And he presents artists before they make it big. And so he invited me to a James Blake concert, and Chance happened to be there with Vic Mensa, I think, and some others. And so we watched the concert from the VIP area, and then I met him backstage, and he was 19, and he's like, yeah, I would love to have the CCC. And a lot of our alums are friends with him. They all grew up together. So it was all kind of in the family. And so just the opportunity right before Coloring Book dropped, Peter Cottontail, his music director, called and he's like, hey Joe, we'd love to have the kids on this album. And I'm like, sure. And he's like, we have the song All We Got, How Great. And then Sunday Candy has Jamila Woods, who's a former student of mine. And so, it just felt like this family affair. It was just a very lighthearted collab, right? It wasn't anything so serious. Like the symphonies or lyric opera, we have multiple weeks of preparation. It was just like casual. Hey, come into the studio. Let's see what you can do. So we went into the studio and we started laying down these tracks and harmonies. And I honestly said to him, via email. I'm like, hey, don't worry about the crediting. If you want to acknowledge the CCC, it's okay. If you don't want to, it's fine. We wanted to just be a part of the process and to support you. Also included an orchestra and had arrangements arranged within 72 hours and brought in musicians, and you can hear it on Same Drugs and some other tracks. And and then all of a sudden it dropped, and and the response, I mean, it was so overwhelming and so positive. And I mean, his message, I mean, just all kind of happened to come together at the right time.
And he ended up giving you guys the featured artist credit.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
That's the most incredible part. So every time someone looks at that song on YouTube, or they don't do liner notes anymore, but your name appears.
Yes, and I didn't even know that Kanye was going to be a part of that. His vocal.
Kanye was on All I Got, right? Mm-hmm. But you guys never got to meet Kanye, but he ended up on the track somehow in another
Correct.
studio.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then subsequent to that, we did the Magnificent Coloring Day at Sox Park. It was mind-blowing. And the big day, and actually just received a message from him the other day, yesterday, for our Paint the Town Red. We usually, it's our pillar event. We gather all 5,000 plus kids at Millennium Park Pritzker Pavilion to celebrate.
All dressed in red jackets, right?
In red, yeah, red polos, and the VOC, the Voice of Chicago Top Ensembles on stage, and it's this huge celebration for the city. And well, alas, it's going to be virtual.
But you're going to do it virtually, right? Because I got the email.
Yes. So we have Common, and he's such a sweetheart too. Peter Cottontail contributed, Kurt Elling, and of course our great mayor, Lori Lightfoot. So they all contributed their kind words of wisdom. It'll include a treasure trove from all of our past Paint the Town Reds, our virtual choir initiatives, and some surprises.
Terrific. So we'll be sure to post a link for that event in the YouTube video. Yeah, Common is our friend as well. Our common experience is we were featured on this short-lived reality TV show like in 2015. It was supposed to be Ryan Seacrest's next big TV show. It was called Knock Knock Live. I'm not sure if you heard of it because it was canceled after 2 episodes, but it was awesome. They got Common to knock on the door of one of our rec centers while I was teaching, and he surprised me with a brand new van, which we still have outside here in our parking lot. He gave us like $20,000 worth of music instruments. We got a donation from the TV show, and then Common kind of sang, he sang his song from Selma, the movie Selma, with our orchestra and our choir. It was kind of like all glory, yeah. It was all very like casual, but he stayed with us for that filming for like the whole day, and he was so gracious. And I've always loved Common even before that interaction. I listened to him in high school, and so I wish he was from Atlanta, but Chicago's a cool place, so we'll let you guys have him.
No, he's terrific and just the kindest soul. I mean, all of these guys, I mean, we're just so fortunate. And again, that goes back to artists being these, model citizens, there's just a camaraderie and a sense of like unity amongst all of us.
It's one day we'll have to do something together. But we have time for that.
I'm whatever you want. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Let's bring in some guests so we can have a little bit of a conversation about more. Well, we have one student who's going to join us, and our senior choir conductor, Brittney Boykin, will join us. So let me bring him on.
Yay.
Really. So guys, get your cameras ready. Here we go.
Hi.
I'm Sedrick-Whitaker. I'm a baritone of the Atlanta Music Project, and I'm about to be a senior. Well, I am a senior, to be honest, to start now. And I do have a few questions.
Will you sing for me at the end? Just like a little chorus or something of your favorite song.
Sure.
Yeah, you can't say no to that, Sedrick. You cannot say no. You have to.
I can see his charisma and his talent. It's oozing through screen here.
Sedrick, how long have you been with the Atlanta Music Project now?
I believe 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, you were in 5th grade, right, when you joined?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, go ahead with your questions, I guess.
Oh, well, to start off, I believe it's already been asked, but now that our lives have changed during the COVID-19, how have you been interacting with your students?
We have been connecting via Zoom and 2 to 3 times a week. We started a new initiative, a fireside chat series where we invite global leaders, artists. We have to have you on, by the way. We'll talk about that. And have these breakout facilitated dialogues after. We have virtual initiatives. I don't know if you've seen any of them. And no, we've just, and it's been a great opportunity to just connect with everyone one-on-one, which is nice, and in smaller group settings. But yeah, it's challenging, but we're embracing the new normal. How are you? How have you been, how have you been dealing with all of this?
I've just been doing, I keep things regular. I try to not think about it, but sometimes it keeps coming back. Being in a house is a whole other thing than just being able to go places other times.
Yeah.
But been doing Zooms. AMP keeps me really busy. So there's no just staying in the house not doing anything. I have something to do every other day. So it's pretty fun.
Well, I love hearing that. No, so I think it's good to stay motivated, right? Like, so I think, instead of going negative, it's so important to have goals. Like, hey, I'm going to do this. Oh, I didn't get to learn a language. I'm going to try this, or just meditate, and work on, mental wellness for sure.
Sedrick, what are your post-high school aspirations?
Mainly keeping myself straight. Directly after high school, I'm gonna keep myself straight. I know I'm gonna go to college instantly. There is no stopping. Gotta study, do what I want, do what I gotta do, get a job, and pretty much graduate at the top of my class, valedictorian, if possible. Not even if possible. I believe it's possible. So yeah.
Yes, it is.
And do you know what you want to study in college? Do you want to keep doing music? Or are you looking at studying something else?
I will continue doing music, but if possible, I will probably go on to like forensic science or technology.
Josephine, what advice would, because you've seen many kids go on to study music and other things through your time at the choir. What advice would you have for Sedrick? He's going to be a senior, so it's time for him. What advice would you have for Sedrick for his senior year?
I think take care of yourself, take care of, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just have goals. And, but I think every day it's just about just putting one foot in front of the other and staying motivated, staying positive, being a beacon of light and a leader in your community, and just do your best at whatever you do, and just embrace it, and don't forget to laugh.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to just be so sucked into the media and sucked into, things that really don't matter, and just stay focused. And if someone tears you down, don't even give it a second thought. You just smile, kill them with kindness, and move forward.
Yeah.
Great advice. Sedrick, do you have, and welcome Brittney. This is Brittney Boykin, Senior Choir Director of the Atlanta Music Project Senior Choir. So welcome.
Gorgeous. Hello, Brittney.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. So nice to meet you. Oh my gosh.
Likewise. Wow, I feel like this is like a big reunion.
Absolutely. We're having so much fun. Sedrick, did you have another question for Ms. Josephine?
Yeah, two. Well, it could be at the same time.
Go for it.
When did you realize you wanted to direct, lead, and teach children in the art of singing? And how did you feel after your first performance with the Chicago Children's Choir?
So the first question, it's the same story that I shared earlier when I went to this concert in New York City, when I realized, actually, no, it was the first time I met CCC, to be honest, when I met the children. Let's just keep it real. They captured my soul. I fell in love with them. And really the reason why I'm here today is because of that interaction, that first interaction with our children. And I would, honestly, I was surprised that a lot of our public schools and just schools in general didn't have arts and music as a primary source of, outlet for expression. And so that was why I was like, I'm going to commit. I couldn't believe that CCC was the only music class, 1 hour, barely, by the time the kids get in the classroom, a week. To me, that's a crime. Every child should have the opportunity to sing. If we all sang first thing in the morning, wouldn't the world be a better place?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%.
absolutely.
And how about the Sedreck second part? You remember your first concert with them and what that was like?
Yes. It's a wall of sound that comes through you. And Brittney, I'm sure you understand what I mean by this. It's so visceral. And I shared this earlier too. They healed me. They saved my life. I mean, imagine bearing your parents in your early 20s, having to, shepherd them through, illness, being brought up as a, Korean American kid in Chicago that was quite frankly not very diverse. And you know how segregated Chicago is. And so I always felt like I didn't have a place. I didn't have a place here. When I would travel, people wouldn't ask as much. But even in America, it's like, where are you from? Born and raised in Chicago. No. Where are you from? I'm like, are you asking my ethnicity? Because well, I was born here. I'm American. No one in Korea thinks I'm Korean. Okay. And if you think I'm some other race, then you have to check yourself. But so yeah, I always had an identity crisis. So when I first interacted with the CCC and they called me Pocahontas and we had this magical magnetic moment, I was like, where have you been all my life? I felt like I finally arrived in my, yeah.
Thank you, Josephine. Sedreck, hang out for a bit. We'll have a little conversation, but we're going to go to Brittney. Brittney is spectacular in her own right. She went to Spelman College. She is therefore a Spelman woman.
I am.
She went to Westminster Choir College for her master's. She's fancy. Her works have been recorded. And she's been with the Atlanta Music Project for about a year now, and we're really, honored to have her with us. Brittney, you want to go ahead and ask a few questions?
Yeah, so I have a lot of questions. I mean, I've been listening, from the very beginning, so I have a lot so we'll just get right to it. So I know you're passionate about encouraging the development of global citizens in CCC, and I just wondered if you could share some tips for how you do that through your repertoire selection.
Yes. Well, I think it's important to sing music outside of the Western canon. And both of us are trained, obviously, we're all trained in the classical. But when you sing music from, let's say, South Africa, and you realize that it was used during the anti-apartheid struggle, or if you sing a song from Korea, Uri's Honen Tongir, that's a song that is a hope for unification one day. It takes the children on a journey. You can share history, you can teach them, culture through music. And so that's what I mean by global citizen. Also, the reason why I say global citizen all the time is because when I travel abroad, I feel like that we all live in this, and as you can see from the pandemic, we are one world, even though we are divided geographically, this is a global economy. And so how do you create a sense of respect and validation for people who come from other places? And you can learn about their life story through music. And that's such a beautiful gift.
Absolutely.
I see Sedreck put himself on mute and he's practicing. So Sedreck, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring you back down to attendee. We're gonna bring you back because I see you warming up. All right, brother. We're gonna keep going with Brittney and Josephine. Sedreck, do not go anywhere. We got you. All right, go ahead, Brittney.
So along those same lines, I know sometimes certain directors are like, they have a little bit of anxiety or nervousness doing, music outside of the Western canon. And I guess I just wonder, like, well, what is your advice for those directors who want to experiment or want to try new things, but they feel like they don't know how? What would, like, especially with like gospel music or, anything like that, what would be your advice as far as how they can do that?
Bring the best people to work with your children, even as a clinician. So this past year, I'm a huge fan of Donald Lawrence. And so I brought him in.
Yes!
He is extraordinary. And he came in and taught our kids The Best Is Yet to Come, which performed at Paint the Town Red at Millennium Park, all over the world, and God of Angel Army. I mean, and just to hear from a master, right? Straight from the source, how to produce, what goes behind the music, the history of the piece, and what the impetus was to create it. That's it. That's what you do, and Bongani from South Africa, or, we have a director of world music, Molly Stone, and she's just absolutely brilliant. So, and she travels all over the world and brings these incredible groups to us.
Mm-hmm. Now, maybe like on a more personal level as like, fellow woman conductor to another woman conductor, like, how do you find the balance between like doing all those things that you love and like your family and, professional career? Like, how do you find the balance to do everything?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think it's if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. So the happier I am and the more fulfilled you are, you share that gift with everyone around you. And so it has been a challenge at times. Yes, I will not lie about that. I mean, our rehearsals go till 7, 8 o'clock. I don't get home till 8:30. But I do try to carve out some time on the weekends, on Sunday, and we have sacred family time that we try to adhere to as much as possible.
I read somewhere that you were a runner, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I actually jogged yesterday just to no, but I am not a runner. I actually, exercise is a challenge for me. But I've learned to embrace yoga, but I have no patience for it. Can you believe I haven't done it once during this pandemic? Oh gosh, thank you for reminding me, though. I do need to stretch.
Okay, so Brittney, you can continue, and then I'm gonna, while I bring Sedreck back.
Yeah, so it's been a huge honor just hearing how you've dedicated your life and your life's work to, the mission of CCC, and just hearing about how they've changed your life and how they gave you hope. I guess my question would be, how can other directors go beyond, what's on the page, like going beyond the perfectionism or the task mastering of things, and enter the space that you've found with CCC and find the deeper meaning of working with their ensembles?
I think if your intentions are right? If it's not, and this is what we talked about earlier about instrumentalists who are specialized, right? If you have the right mindset that your life, and this goes back to your comment, your question about how do I balance my family and my career. I have 2 kids. They're 10 and 12, a boy and a girl. But what's the point of having children if you don't have a world in which they can all coexist with everyone?
Amen.
Okay, so I think that it's all about framing. And if you yourself embody a world that you see where we can all harmoniously live together and share that positive spirit, then that should be the center of your, every day you wake up and you say, what should I be doing today? How can I serve others? Mm-hmm. And if you go in with that mindset, it will come to you, and your openness to other people, the kindness and respect. And by all means, my life was not easy, okay? I've had many challenges, even with major cultural institutions with whom I am now very close with. But did I let myself being a female or Asian American, I guess, if you want to call that, I call myself a global citizen. Did I let that stop me? No, I let my work speak for itself. I let my humility speak for itself. And that,
Yes. Yes.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah. I have one more question.
Yeah.
Sure.
One more.
Of course.
Okay. So it's just been so like uplifting to hear someone finally talk about optimism and, you know, in the situation that we're dealing with right now. There have just been so many webinars from a number of different organizations that have cast like this dark, gloomy shadow on the future. And it's just been just a breath of fresh air to hear someone talking about optimism. So I just want to know, like, what would be your message like to those teachers who are struggling, you know, not being able to see their students, not being able to work with them in the way that they want? What would be like your just message of encouragement to them during this time right now?
Yeah, this is an opportunity to reinvent, to innovate, right? And so if it's a matter of connecting with your student, then you know what, embrace it. I have staff members that, you know, were it was challenging for them at first, but now they're completely in it. If that means it's more one-on-one attention, then and take this opportunity to do something, pivot and do something different. If it's having a dialogue or a voice lesson or even in a small group setting, you know, take this as like a gift, right? We have this time to, I felt like we were in a loop before the pandemic. I'll just say this. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, now we have to get up and we have
the routine, the monotony of the routine. Yeah.
Yes. And it was that sustainable, really? Like, you know, us being uninspired. So I think it's important to take a pause, okay? And if you feel overwhelmed, and say, I'm going to take in nature. I'm going to take in the world. I'm going to take in what other people are doing. I'm going to also self-reflect upon how I can be of service to others in this time of need. And if that's even like having a conversation, if that's engaging in an art form that I would have never thought to, you know, ever embark on, maybe that's an opportunity. Maybe I'm going to draw. I'm just throwing ideas out there, but I do think there is a massive doom and gloom about the state of our profession, which is actually damaging. It's very damaging because, especially during times of crisis, arts are necessary. And I have heard it. We've had reflections with all of our kids this week. Every single one of them said, thank you for staying connected with us. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be in a safe space. Everyone is so kind, right? We as artists are more welcoming. We're collaborative. We want to hear your ideas. And to your point about like, yeah, even if it's not excellent, it's about the act of doing, right? The repetition, the discipline that comes with it. Whether you become an artist or not, it's not about that. I always say to my kids, whether you become a plumber, a professor, or a doctor, do it with passion and do it with joy and do it with laughter and embrace your life and just say, this is what why not? Be happy. Be happy. We get to be alive. And this is, as now we have seen with COVID, you know, life is very fragile and very temporary.
Amen. Thank you.
I will not try to follow that up with anything at this moment. We're going to transition to Mr. Sedreck, and we're going to also bring on Miss Aisha Moody, who is our Chief Program Officer. She's been listening in, and she actually has a couple of questions for you too, Josephine, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, I'm watching Sedreck. He's just
all right.
So
here comes Aisha.
Life.
And we're gonna unmute Sedreck.
Hey, Brittney, we should definitely collaborate.
Please, I would love to connect.
I mean, see, there are no boundaries geographically, right? Like we can do this. And let's talk about a new initiative. And if there's a song that you all want to do or you want it arranged, I'm happy to get it arranged, and then we could create, and I will share all my secrets. Not that I have any, but.
Thank you.
There you go. Aisha Moody, welcome. Aisha, Chief Program Officer. She's also has a choral background. Okay, Sedreck, can you say something so we can make sure that you're here?
Yep.
All right. Let's all mute ourselves, and Sedreck, go ahead and do your thing. Introduce what you're gonna do, and go for it. Okay.
Well, I will be singing a part, a little snippet of something that I've sung before. It's called Oche Sante di Pelgrami by Alessandro Scaletti. So I guess I'm just gonna start it. O c'è sante di pelgani, o lasciatemi morire, o lasciatemi morire. Lucian grande dispiatate, Lucian grande dispiatate, più del gelo e più del mani, fredde sore mie, mate. Predecessore mie, mate, o cessante di pelgani, o lasciatemi morire, o lasciatemi morire.
Unmute yourselves.
I loved your expression and just your life, and you're just such a beautiful singer. Bravo.
Sedreck, I'm so proud of you because you've come such a long way. Every time I hear you sing, it's better.
Thank you.
Great.
Do you have any other questions for Miss Josephine, Sedreck?
No, sir.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna go. Aisha has a couple of questions for you.
Come visit us in Chicago, okay, Sedreck?
Will do.
We'll hop in the van that Common gave us, and right.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, I'll send you the video. It's wild. And the show got canceled after 2 episodes, so no one knows it exists. But it was supposed to be. I mean, this was highly produced. Like, yeah,
It was
I'll send
fun.
you the video.
Why did it get canceled?
They weren't getting enough views. It was supposed to be like they wanted it to be in the same range of viewers as American Idol, which I think was something like 7 to 10 million people per night. And this one only got like 1.5 or 2 million, so they just cut it after 2. Yeah, it was crazy. Aisha, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Hey, everybody. Hi, Sedreck. Bye, Sedreck. Josephine, we're so happy to have you. I'm Aisha Moody and co-founder of the choir program here. And when we started the choir program, it was YPC and BCC and CCC that laid the foundation for what we do, this social justice, but not dismissing musical excellence. So I thank you for the work that you've done. We've got one of your former staff members, we stole them. Her name is Amber Smith, and she teaches with us now. She moved down to Atlanta. Yeah, but she sings your praises. So you guys did good work with her.
Hello to Amber.
Hello to Amber. So Brittney really stole my question, sort of. It was really along the lines of during this time when people like Sedreck, who you see, he's a very pleasant guy, very charming. Even the Sedrecks of our group, not from the adult perspective, but from the youth perspective, are really discouraged right now. And, they're bored, but they're also just discouraged with what they see happening to their arts world and their world in general. I know you all have the virtual choirs and things, but what do you say to the young people that are going to hear this, that are artists within their own right? Whether they belong to an AMP or a CCC or not, but they are artists and they are struggling with their creativity and how to, teenagers' number one issue is being seen and being heard and having their voice heard. And we provide that for them. And if they don't have that through us, a lot of them are suffering. So, do you have any words on the young people who see themselves as artists and are struggling to just be themselves during this time?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so I can share from my experience with our singers. And yes, they are experiencing the similar things, boredom, frustration, anger, and yet grateful for the time to be able to reflect. So I think it's important for them to take this opportunity to not, because yes, you're right, they like to be seen and heard. But what would we have done if the internet didn't exist, right? If this was 100 years ago, right? The world would be, I can't even imagine. So I would encourage all of them to take this opportunity to learn or listen to something new, to embrace the silence, which we often never have. From the moment I wake up to, I'm always on a screen, and to journal, to vlog, And because this is temporary, this is not permanent. So we have to be very, very conscious of the fact that this is maybe 12 to 18 months. So during this time, what are we producing? Our own personal narrative. And I think that will help him, or pick up an instrument, pick up a language. I know it's dumb to say that, but it's true. I mean, even looking on Duolingo, I mean, they're all on Instagram and Snapchat every day, all day, but maybe take it, use an a cappella app. Maybe, they all like to look at themselves. Film yourself singing. Film yourself playing, because there is something that happens. And with these virtual initiatives, I've realized how much stronger each singer has become by self-evaluating.
Hearing themselves, yeah.
And
Yes.
we often don't do that. I mean, I had to do it myself for Ted Hearn's piece. Ted Hearn is an alum of the choir, and we embarked on this piece with Saul Williams. It's called Place. It's about gentrification, migration. It's fabulous. I'll send it to you when it comes out. But I am like, I over filter myself all the time. I'm perpetually insecure. You should see me. Even this morning, I was on WGN, and I'm like, oh God, I have to talk, and you have to, you're always, that's the life. We're just very self-critical. So in this moment of stillness, let us self-evaluate our own art, and because we're always in output mode. Oh, let's get this done. That's what I was saying to Brittney earlier about being in a loop. So what have we not thought of?
Right.
Look at people like Bobby McFerrin, genius, right? Because he didn't emulate someone, he created his own sound.
Absolutely.
So what is your own sound?
That's beautiful. What is your own sound? That's a whole nother podcast in itself. What is your own sound? I think that'll be well received. Thank you for that response. Beautiful. One more thing. First of all, I mean, as choral directors, we feel that choir is just something that's so profoundly special. And music in itself, it moves emotions, but there's something powerful about spoken word, and spoken word set to music. It does something to people that nothing else does. So that's why we love choir. That's why we are who we are, why we do what we do. And the kids know that we love them because we have relationships that we build with them, but they also know we love our music. And every now and then they think that we're just, so much about the music, like, oh, Miss Lee, I don't know what they call you, Miss Josephine, Miss Lee, or Miss Brittney's going to get mad if, I sing the wrong note. But they don't know, that all that goes into this, and this is our world. So I say that to say, if your youth could hear you, if you know what you really think about them, or what you really think about why you do what you do, what would they hear? If they were a fly on the wall in your living room when you're sitting around with choral directors, what would they take away from that conversation?
What do I really think?
Yes.
You really want to know what I really
I
think?
really want to know what you really think, because they think that all we do is study scores and say, gotta get that note right. It's all about the performance, and it's not just that,
It's not. It's about the process. It's about the journey, and all of us striving towards this goal, whether it be excellence or performance or a video, whatever it is. It's about working collectively together to create something extraordinary. And sometimes it's not about that destination, right? It's about like, what can we learn? Oh, I can harmonize, I can hear my voice, blending with yours in this way. And then when this chord locks, and it just gives me the goosebumps, right? The magical musical moments that we talk about. But ultimately, it's not about that goal of making art. It is about what happens to the person when you work with someone else who is different than you. And that collective shared experience of knowing that we're part of a greater community and that we actually need each other to survive.
There you go. That's it.
I have 2 questions for Josephine, and I'm going to keep Brittney and Aisha on just to finish out. So my first question is, Josephine, has the Chicago Children's Choir ever gone to the World Choir Games?
No, no, I'm sorry. Sadly, no.
And the reason I ask, but you've done some competitions before in the past, like national or international?
Yes, before my tenure in '98, they were at the Llangollen Festival in England, was it? The UK?
Well, you've done um, obviously huge venues around the world for performances. So we were actually scheduled to go compete in their World Choir Games in Belgium this summer. And it was, they've been postponed to the following summer, 2021. So that was a huge disappointment. But I was wondering, when it comes to preparing for the big time, like for a tour, or, because we've never done a tour, we've never performed really outside of Georgia, as a large ensemble, what advice would you give to our organization when it comes to preparing for the big tours and overseas?
Overseas. So, overseas, you have to prepare them mentally. We were in Spain last summer, and you remember that heat wave? It was 120.
That's hotter than Atlanta.
Yeah, no, there was a massive heat wave, and some of these venues didn't have air conditioning.
Oh my.
And the restaurants, it's not like America. And even when you go to Cuba, I mean, you should see some of they're just like so grateful for the resources that we have here. But yes, you have to be culturally sensitive. And I think that's important to prep them mentally. The food may not be the same if you go to certain countries. And so that we as American ambassadors of our country, right? Because they're pretty much diplomats, artist citizens going out into the world, representing our great country. It's important that we understand and respect everyone's culture and prep them for that. Social codes, as if you will.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah,
Does that make sense? Yeah.
definitely.
Last question for Miss Josephine. You've been such a terrific and inspirational guest. You've done so much in your career, and you have a long road ahead of you, many years to do great things. What is the next movement for Josephine Lee?
Honestly.
Always.
Always. Okay. Okay. I haven't said this in public yet, and I've been trying to grapple with how I'm going to. This is deep. Okay. I mean, this is just because I personally have never experienced this kind of strife. Well, maybe yeah. But this whole COVID has brought to light, to the surface, a very ugly side of our country and our world. Okay. And it being called the China virus, okay, has really created some massive backlash against Asian Americans, as you know. And so it's interesting because I'm like, holy cow, I'm so glad this is happening because now I know what it feels like, right? I haven't personally felt that. And as I said earlier, I feel like I'm a global citizen. I don't even feel like I'm Asian American, but unfortunately, we still live in an era, and I hear from my kids too, that they experience this racism for the way they look. And until the day we stop judging people for the way we look, and this goes back to MLK, will be the day my job is done. And as artists, we see through all of that because we're connected on a deeper level. And so for me, that has been very disheartening, I'll just be honest. And it's something that I have not gone into China personally. I've been invited to Korea and Singapore and India and Japan, but China is still on my radar. Now, whatever you think about politics and government, I mean, there are people who are victims, okay, on both sides. And so I just feel like we have to be more compassionate as a country. And you all have that role as leaders in your state and our nation to help quell this negativity and perpetuating this hate of xenophobia that we have. I don't know why it's happening again, but it is. And I fear for our children, really, and we have to do better for them. And unfortunately, when kids are in this space and families and they're like, you know, we're all kind of trapped, right? We're all, and to your point earlier, like, how do you keep kids motivated? You want to get them out of that negative state of mind and get them to think more productively and positive, because this is their world. They have so much opportunity. Think about their future, okay? This is just a small sliver, moment in time. So my deepest wish is, that we all, you know, coexist in a way that's positive and peaceful and harmonious. And I think the arts are going to save the world, and music, truly.
And there it is. We have our charge. Ladies and gentlemen, Josephine Lee, President and Artistic Director of the Chicago Children's Choir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep up the great work. And let's work together.
Absolutely.
Love you all.